In a world with entirely too many shows about cars, this is another pointless automotive podcast.
Oops, speaking of an intro, an opening.
Hey now. And we've got kind of a fun one today because we have our second victim or guest or partner in crime, whatever you want to call it, and that is one Richard Smith. Say hi, Richard.
Hi, Richard.
Yeah. I don't know if he is high or not, but he is a buddy. He deals in the world of cars. You are chief proprietor, owner, however you want to cook it up, of Car Donation Services here in the San Francisco Bay Area. How are you?
Good. Having a good day so far.
That's right. Yes, there's coffee. There's
Yep.
adult beverages.
Yeah.
The weather is finally nice, and we're just gonna kind of hang out and talk about cars. That's right.
We're doing that this week?
Yeah.
We are.
This is
It's new. It's a bold new frontier we're breaking into.
exploring.
And so the world of donated vehicles and car donations. What the heck is that all about? What's the breakdown? What's the elevator pitch for donated cars? What do you do? How does it work? How long have you been doing it? Why are you here? Damn it!
What's your favorite color?
Because I heard there was free beer. So.
There is. No, you'll get a bill. What's the deal? So car donation services. What's the skinny?
I started in 1990, and it
Was a good year.
Yeah,
Good
year.
vintage.
And so back then there was only a handful of car donation programs in the Bay Area, and basically the way it works is you got an old car, you don't want to deal with selling it or trying to get it to the junkyard. There's a whole bunch of nonprofits, 501c3s that we're state licensed to represent, and they'll ultimately they get word to us, hey, come pick up this car. We do what we us in particular, we'll actually assess each car and decide, hey, it's worth throwing some money into this one and getting it smogged and dolling it up, and it needs to go back on the road.
Sure.
A lot of them just go either straight to the dismantler
Okay.
Yeah.
or a dismantler auction.
Right.
But some of them, I'm a car nut, so it's been super fun. I mean, we're at this point where we do about 1,000 cars a year.
Okay.
And so
It's pretty healthy.
every time you hear that truck rolling in, my ears perk up
You
like a
gotta
little dog.
peek out the
It's
window.
like,
like
what is it?
Some
And-
creeper. Seeing
Yeah.
what's coming in off the truck.
Yeah, and sometimes it's something really cool, and what was it? I remember this one time. This lady had a '67 Beetle, and she called from they'd put her in a retirement home, and she was very sad. And anyway, she's like, "Well, it's an old car. At that time, it was probably a 40-year-old car, so it's not new." That thing rolled in. It looked like it was in a museum. It was so beautiful. But it goes
That's
the
cool.
other way too, where
Right.
somebody goes, "I've got this pristine car," and we go all the way to Stinson Beach, and it's got raccoons
It's
living
actively
in it.
on fire.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, holy mackerel! You were too truthful with us there, were you, fella?
They just like, I got to get rid of this car. No one else wants it.
I'll say whatever I gotta
I'll
say.
sell it. Yep.
Yeah.
You're already here. Just
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so-
Yeah. What are you gonna do now?
But so then we get it sold, and we take a portion of the proceeds, and but like I said, a lot of them go straight to the dismantler or whatnot. But the fun ones are the ones we have a small yard where we bring them in, and we get to snoop around them. And some of the old fun ones too were the ones that maybe they've been sitting in somebody's driveway for 20
Right.
years, and they're time capsules. You open the glove box, and there's matchbooks from the Pink Flamingo or whatever restaurant.
There's
was
like a losing like lottery scratch off ticket from like 1981 or something.
Yeah, the cassette tapes we find. Yeah,
That's awesome.
Exactly.
And
38 special greatest hits.
yeah,
or like,
Gemco shopping bags, and and the old man toolkit. It's got the flares, the gloves, the flashlight, the blanket to lay on. Just must have been some notice that went
Thomas
out about,
Guide.
Yeah. Those are in there too. So it's like little time capsules, which is super fun too.
So you've been doing this since 1990, I'm sure. Between
Yeah.
here and there, you've probably seen the card, and you kind of alluded to it too. You said at the time there weren't too many other players in the space. How has that changed? Because I have to imagine a lot has changed since 1990. Probably some for better. some for worse. Because I imagine if back then it was not a common thing for, somebody to donate their vehicle for a tax write-off, probably back then it was a little bit of, I would assume, a little bit of a wild, wild west type situation.
It was, yeah. And the company that it was Chabad of San Francisco, and they were getting 2,000 cars a year.
Oh, wow.
Just with like one radio ad, and just because there was one other outfit that was doing it that there was some hinky stuff where the pier burned and there was a bunch of cars on it. There was a big insurance claim, but
Interesting.
back then you could donate your car and you could just write it off for Blue Book. And so it was abused. People,
I'm sure.
People would just have a total roach and say, "Oh, hi, Blue Book, there it is." And so eventually it got to the point where, I think it was probably 15 years in, where the state said, you can only write off up to $500. If you want more than $500, it started out that then you had to have an appraisal, but then it went to where the donor gets to write off whatever we sell it for.
Sure. Okay.
So it's been some more controls in place, and then there's it got to government. There's IRS reporting and Attorney General reporting, and so
Right.
there's a lot more documentation and paperwork, as it will, because back in the days you called the Wild West. I'd literally show up, for one of my charities. I'd have a bag with rubber band stacks of money to say, here's this month's, we sold 10 cars, here's the money, and here's a binder paper with my handwritten notes of what it was.
The tear off, like out of the spiral notebook.
Yeah, correct.
here
my
you go.
peachy folder, yeah.
Dot matrix printout if you got really fancy.
Yeah, so it worked for me because I was still am a little techie challenge, but there's definitely a lot more effort that goes into
Right.
compliance and contracts and all that other stuff that.
Was there a point in time, because you said at the time, and like it's called the early 90s, there weren't a lot of players in the space.
Mm-hmm.
And now that there's a lot more oversight and regulation and hoops that entities such as yourself have to jump through, is there like a bell curve? Like there were not too many, and then people kind of figured out that it was very unregulated, so a lot of players got into space, and now that has since dropped off?
Yeah, kind of. So there was a lot of just people winging it and just jumping in, and a lot of little guys, and it has gotten consolidated. There's, some of the big competitors that do it, like IAA, which is,
Right.
They have a division of it, IAAI, and they've bought up a lot of the little guys. So there's still some of us out there. But it's definitely fewer people. Right now, with cars being worth so much, if you turn on the radio on your car, we'll buy your car, and it's either going to be pick and pull, it's going to be dealerships. Where people are hurting for a
CarMax
car,
and all that stuff, yeah.
Yeah, which that wasn't, really a thing back then where it was so competitive, and then it's also competitive within the car donation programs, and
Right.
people spend. Well, my lovely friend
Crazy
Cars
jingles,
for Kids.
crazy
Oh,
jingles notwithstanding.
I hate those
What a
guys.
song.
Yeah,
though. Great song.
yeah. But they're
Effective, anyways.
Yeah, well, but my kind of axe to grind with those guys is all those cars go to the East Coast, one specific religious organization, and everybody. I think we all like to give.
Oh, it's
where we
4
live.
kids. So
Yeah.
but you don't know what
Yeah.
the 4 kids
Kids
is.
in New Jersey
Is
who
it the kid?
only
Is it
are
4
of
kids
this
to play with
religious-
matches? Like
Yeah.
I don't know. It's
They
just
looked
4
pretty
kids.
young to be driving too, right? Let's be
That's
honest.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah,
Their drug addictions, maybe it's paying for that. I don't know.
could be.
So
So I guess the moral of that story is like,
do your
donate your
homework.
car, but yeah, do your homework, right?
Yeah, and
That's a good point.
like I said, I think everybody likes to kind of give where you live, and we've focused on trying to keep the bulk of our charities in the Bay Area, and so that makes that easy. If if somebody goes with one of our charities, probably 98% of them are going to be a Bay Area charity.
Sure.
That's cool.
That's cool, and it's and I think it's interesting because there are a lot of these people. They have their cars. They've been them and their vehicle have been part of their community for however many years, right? And then they donate it to a charity that's still part of that community,
Right.
And then it's also if there's local to say your sales yard, that car can even still continue to operate and be in that community.
Right. Well, the Saab, we just took it back, and the guy goes, "Oh, we've seen this car. We've done this stuff on it." And
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So they're like, oh, I know this car. This is Bob's car, or whatever.
Yep,
and
that's
they-
yeah.
That's really
That
interesting.
happens quite often, actually.
So, Chadwick, do you have any specific questions?
Well, yeah, I wanted to get a little personal because I know we talked about it a little bit, like histories of certain cars that roll in, and especially these cars that have been in like a family or a single owner for such a long time.
Yeah.
There's always a history behind it, and I'm sure it's hard for them to kind of give the car over or their family to bring it in.
Okay,
Yeah, so I figured I'd intro you into this because I really want to hear this. I love histories about cars. I think that's
Sure.
a big thing. Every car
Yeah.
has its own background. So
Yeah,
could you enlighten us with a good story?
Yes, I will. And so this is a letter I found, and I might not get through it because this is how emotional I get about cars. But
Sure.
this is it was a
Don't you dare get me
75.
crying today,
Yeah,
Richard. I swear.
somebody we might all have to take a turn to get through this, but and probably
Not
people
crying
who are
or
not
Yeah, it's
you know,
sweat got
cars
my
are
eye.
metal to you. This is not the segment for you.
I just
but-
took a huge bump, and so that's why my eyes are watering. Exactly.
So this is about and it came out of Martinez, and it's a 75 Land Cruiser, and I found this in the glove box, and it said, I'm already losing it. Hi, my name is LC, which stood for Land Cruiser. I've been with the same family since I was born in 1975. I had many adventures with them and was very much a part of the family. I was on a first-name basis with everyone in the extended family, and even close friends called me LC. In the beginning, it was more high adventure. We would go four-wheeling or go driving in the snow. Then a lot of our time was spent camping. It was great fun. I was always able to carry all the needs of the family.
Oh, I gotta read it for you. Okay.
next.
All right. Here we go. Always able to take care of the needs of the family. Then the family started to grow. Child car seats fit very well in my back seat, and the family always felt safe with me. They knew I was a, quote, tank, and would let nothing happen to them. We would go on a drive. We would go to the drive-in movies, and the kids would sleep in the back. They liked that. We would go to the kids' soccer games and go to the beach. We all had fun. As the kids grew older, there wasn't very much need for me, so I took a well-deserved break and just hung around the house. Then, when it was time for the kids to learn to drive, I was there, ready and able to help in any way that I could. I was so happy to be on the road again. I tried to keep the boys safe as I could on the roads, never going much over 55 miles per hour. It hurt too much to go too much faster. Their parents felt safe with me being the ones carrying them around town. Then when the youngest boy graduated high school and off to college, there wasn't, again, much use needed for me. Still feeling a part of the family, I stuck around for another 15 years, not being driven, just loved. It is with a sad heart that I leave my first family. I know that they are sad to see me go, but it is time for a new adventure. Life rolls merrily along. Be good to me, and I will bring you joy. Kind regards, LC. And this is dated almost exactly 9 years ago.
And here's the envelope. To whom it may
Oh, look at that.
concern.
They didn't even
My
tell you
name is
about it,
LC.
huh? They just
You're a
stashed
rock.
it
You
away.
got through that without even a lump in your throat. But
Oh, no, it's
somebody must have written it, or you could write a child's book about a car
I'm gonna-
out of
I was
this.
gonna
Absolutely.
say, exactly.
Yeah, like that. See, that would be the way to carry on that
I'm
legacy,
literally
right?
welling.
Yeah.
But no, that's cool because it's like yeah, that's it. Maybe that's it. Maybe we need to.
Well, functionally, it was
write
like
a
the
book.
history of the vehicle, but it was so personal. It's like perspective of the vehicle, which is super
Yeah.
cool to hear.
So what
And-
happened to LC? Did you just sell it to Pick and Pull for
No, no.
$200 and get crushed into a huge?
No, so that was an FJ55, the big
Ooh, the
wagon
Iron
one.
Pig.
Yeah,
I love those.
And with a few minor rust issues, it was still the blue and white original paint.
Those are cool.
Totally stock. I want to say maybe there was an aftermarket radio, but it was already at kind of collectible level. So we put it. I forget where I might have put it in Hemmings or whatever, and actually a restorer collector from North Carolina got it, and it was shipped across.
that's awesome.
And I think when at the end of dealing with him, I said, "Hey, make sure to send me some pictures." And I don't know that I ever got them, but it went on to probably live I'm sure they put some money in it, and my guess is it's got a good new life, and maybe sitting in a show a collection somewhere, or maybe they resto mod it and made it all ready to go on more adventures. I don't know. But,
That's really cool.
That's
Yeah.
so cool.
I like that. That's great.
yeah.
And that's cool. And I imagine there's probably a lot of cars that'll come through that are, obviously they don't have a whole like soliloquy written about them, but there's stuff that was like with a family for a long time, or
Yeah.
an original owner and they aged out, so to speak, and they no longer are able to drive the car, and maybe the family doesn't know what to do with it and so they donate it, which is great. That's like a good outcome kind of for everything. Is there ultimately, and it sounds like the answer is going to be a clear yes, but is there ultimately a balance between like honoring that car and like doing what's right by the car and selling it to a good home versus doing something that's maybe more, you might get like $4 extra out of it, but then selling it to not as good of a, like, what's that balance? I mean, I know I struggle with that
scrapping it
balance.
versus saving. Me too.
Yeah.
And being that, I cry about a car letter, you can tell I'm a car person, and I want to save all the ones that can be saved. And
Right.
And ultimately, I think I err on the side of trying to keep cars on the road and get them back to doing what they were meant to do. So, yeah, I mean, at some point though, some of these cars, I'll know that if the right person finds them, they're going to be excited and they're going to do the right thing by them. On the other hand, you can't find them. You run your ads or whatever, and eventually you go, okay,
You got to
go.
Yeah,
And
because ultimately it's like that's not what it's ultimately about. It's about like, hey, this is donated to a charity.
Yeah.
The person that donates it wants their tax
And
write-off ultimately.
they want their money.
And then the charity that portion needs to be honored, and they need to get the proceeds of that sale.
Right, but the kind of the compromise that I'll send it to Copart, and Copart does it. It's primarily a dismantle or insurance auction.
Right.
But a lot of those cars do get saved. A lot of the Copart cars that are fixable, they go south of the border where a mechanic makes $6 an hour. So
Right.
they'll sit there and put way more time and money into a car. Well, not money. They'll put a lot more time and whatnot, and it makes financial sense for them to put something back on the road. Whereas up here, where you're paying a union mechanic,
Right.
it doesn't work. So, so when I do have to pull the trigger on some of these ones, I can say, well, maybe it's going to get bought by somebody who's, and and some of the stuff, it's like, it'll get sent overseas, like old Japanese stuff before it went crazy. I would see, because you get to see when you get the report from Copart,
Where
it's going over, it's going back to Japan, or it's going to Germany.
Go to Bahrain or something like that.
Yeah, it's weird, the markets for some of this stuff. So,
And like, how much has that market change made it so now there were things that you probably sold, whether it's 1 year ago, 5 years ago, 20 years ago, that is like, oh, I should have kept that one.
Oh.
Like, or that one, like the quote unquote one that got away, right? Where like, oh, I like this car, I can buy it for myself, or I can try and save it, but nah, it doesn't make financial sense, can't do it, and then it gets sold for cheap, or it goes, it not necessarily the crusher, but maybe it goes overseas or whatever, where you're like, oh, I shouldn't have like sold that 73 911 RS for like, a ham sandwich.
Whatever the market was at the time. Yeah,
probably a lot of that, I would assume.
there's a lot, but the one, because I'm super fond of these cars, for like 10 years when I was younger, I just drove 240Zs, and this is going back probably 10 years ago. Factory orange one came out of San Ramon, and it had been sitting in the same spot on somebody's driveway for I think 20 years. All the tires were rotten.
Right.
Heavy sun damage, but an original paint, unhit, rust-free car.
Right.
And I'm like, I gotta save this one. So I bought it, and then I set it aside, and then like 2 years goes by, and I was in one of those things where I had too many cars, and
What's that
somebody
like?
made me an offer, and
I can't relate to
I was
this.
going to be able to get my money back out and put it into something else, and now those things have gone nuts.
Yeah,
and it
yeah,
was
wild.
and it was because I really wanted to put together a real nice one, and I haven't seen the opportunity. They're out there if you want to pay the money, but that's not how I'm wired. I got to figure out, I like going to the junkyard, and
Well, I imagine if like playing in the, let's call it the shallow end of the pool, so to speak, as far as like spending money on cars for the last 40 years, with people, not giving you cars, but cars being donated to a charity and maybe being rough around the edges, and there being an opportunity to either sell it on or whatever at a cheaper, probably under market price, to then go pay over market at something like Bottoms or Bring a Trailer or whatever seems pretty unappealing. Yeah,
the lesson would be though, even when I see people overpay, then 2 years forward, it's worth double anyway. You know?
Yeah, the way the trend has been.
Yeah, and so I think I think it was Leno, or I've heard it. People say buy the best car you can afford, and it's like I'm the opposite. I buy the worst car.
Exactly.
And then
you kick
dreams of
yourself
saving-
later.
Yeah,
You're like, God
and then
damn it, Leno.
I see these people who like.
You were
know,
right.
they buy the really perfect car and it becomes worth more. And my money's sitting in the bank getting worth less because of inflation. I
Sure.
should have bought that super nice car that was done because I tend to not finish them. I get them most of the way there and drivable, and then it's like I never do that final last few things. But anyway,
That was like my comment earlier. Like, even if you're not in a position to buy a car, when you see a deal on something you like, I think all of us suffer from the we're going to do it. We're going to buy this car. We'll figure it out after, right?
yeah, and whether
Exactly.
it's to make the future, potential profit off of it, or whether you want to save the car.
Yeah, the
or,
emotional investment at that point. You see
Yep.
that car you
Yeah.
haven't seen for 5 or 10 years come up
Yeah,
for sale.
you
You're
have
like,
fond
"God
memories
damn
of it. Yeah, I have a friend. He's like this with motorcycles. He literally had to stop going on Craigslist. He said
You have to cut
he's
yourself
like
off.
a drunk at the bar. It's like don't go into the bar. And then it was funny. I talked to him about 2 weeks ago. He goes, I did it. I went on and I ended up buying a bike.
Every time. Yeah.
Exactly.
Bad.
But he's got a
MCA.
cool wife, and his wife said, if it'll make you happy, get it. And he's like, all right. And like I said, he has the right
It'll
lady.
make me happy,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
it won't make me happy.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
Yeah.
yeah.
No, they're like a meal. You're happy for an hour or two, and then you're
Exactly.
looking for the next one.
The,
right?
the unhappy meal. No, that's cool. And so, like, okay, so you said you were into Z cars and you had the one and stuff. What do you have now? Like, what's in the stable? What have you limped home?
Yeah, so I whittled it down pretty good. I got to a point
That's what they all
once
say.
where-
Yeah, right.
This is probably 15 years ago, and I had 12 cars. I was into the old 9C1 Caprices, which were dirt cheap back then.
Yeah, that's the
They were
police package
great.
car, right?
Oh my God, you could
Yeah.
just hammer those. They were LT1s, and you could get them at the auction for like $1,800 for a decent one, and they were good. And gas was not $5 a gallon. So anyway, and so I've started to thin the herd, and so now I have.
11.
No, I think let me count. So I have a '69 El Camino, which is almost done as a driver. You can actually get in and drive it, but the trim needs to go back on. The door panels need to go back on. It's a small block AC disc brake car, just kind of a driver,
Sure.
And I want to get that where I can actually have it in the driveway. That's a problem, and I find that unless the stuff is in my driveway, if it's in the garage, even if there's a couple of things sitting, I won't get it there and use it. And that's the case. I have a '68 Camaro convertible. It's at the house in the garage, but now Melanie's folding laundry on top of it. And it's like,
It's a slippery slope. I have a personal rule that nothing goes on top of a car in the garage because once that seal is broken,
yes.
it's over.
It becomes a mountain, right? It
Yeah,
starts with
all of a
couple
sudden,
articles,
and then
it's
you're the guy that you hate when you drive by and you see an open garage and there's
Yeah.
moving boxes and all kinds of stuff on top of a car and you feel bad for the car. You're like, oh. So that's I have a personal rule. Like nothing on the car.
Small aside, this road I travel down a lot. They have the garage door open a lot. There's a first gen NSX in there.
Yeah.
and it has like a very thin cover. And it used to be a couple things folded on top, and every time I go by, there's like another box.
Something else.
Yeah.
There was like some wood shelving on top of it. I'm like, oh, took that car out.
I can't tell you the cars that we've gotten, like estate cars, ones that maybe they've been in there forever, and you look and you see all those scratch marks from people sliding boxes or whatever,
yeah.
and I'm like,
Right across the roof.
Yeah.
And it's like,
So,
okay, so
and
that's
then I
two.
I got a
Solid.
05 E55 AMG, which is the thing I like most about that car is a great sleeper car for people who don't know, what they're looking at from the back of the car with the AMG badge and the exhaust. It just looks like this old man silver 4-door Mercedes, but it's fast.
Oh yeah, that was before you the AMG stuff got really kind of grandiose and burble tuny and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Right.
Like it's far more subdued. That era of German muscle car stuff. Is
They
kinda
were.
cool.
They were
Yeah.
true muscle cars. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and this thing has 190 on it, and I have a friend who was a mechanic, full-time mechanic, and he owns one, so he actually takes care of it for me. So if he didn't, it would be maybe cost prohibitive to own that car, although it hasn't given me a lot of problems. And if you read about those hand-built motors.
Yeah.
There's a YouTube thing about one of those with 500K on the motor. And
Yeah, I think I saw that the guy dynos it or something.
yeah,
I mean,
and I think it lost like 50 horsepower or something.
Yeah.
But
It's got the guy's name inscribed on it. Right?
yeah,
You could reach out, find him,
I
thank you, write him a letter.
whoever my builder was, I Googled it, and there's little blurbs about people.
You can type up a letter to him, and you can fold it up and
Let him
mail it
know.
to him that says "To whom it may concern,"
Yes.
and you send it to him. And
Thank you for the sweet motor.
Yeah,
Exactly.
great job, man.
Exactly. Okay, so
And then-
that's 3.
Yeah, and then I have a 90 K1500 little GMC half-ton short bed step side. That
Cool.
Also, I think it's got 190 something on it, 5.7,
Yeah.
little automatic, but it's option, well optioned. It's power windows. It was the
Those are cool.
SLE, I think, is the package. And
GMC is that would be SLE.
yeah, and it's got the leprosy paint job. That's the white paint that's
Early
flaking
90s
off.
Yeah, yeah.
And I keep
Yep.
chasing it. I get this spray can. It's the bonding agent. I spray that on, and then I get the rattle can. And I'll keep chasing it around.
Nice.
And
There you go. Truck problems.
One day I want to do an actual respray.
Just
on
wrap it in
but-
chrome.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, the wrap. That's a good idea. What else do I have?
4.
That's 4. I've got the. Well, it's actually the I think it's the 87 K1500.
Okay.
Your
Right.
friends are doing the motor on that.
Yeah.
Apparently, it's driving now.
Oh,
So,
boy.
Yeah, it was
We've turned the
a
corner.
1-year rebuild. They just kind of worked on it as fill-in, which is fine. It was free storage.
Exactly.
So, and that's going to be coming back to me soon. I sold the Ridgeline to my girlfriend.
Okay, so that
Because
was
I was like,
gone,
I can't
but it's still in the family,
insuring
sort
and
of.
taking care of this. And then also this '07 Prius with 200K on it that she's driving. Just that's when gas
Okay.
got close to 7. I go, I need something. So
Yeah,
I-
right.
But so the Prius, I'm not emotionally attached to it, so
Because
you kind of
Prius.
cannot count that.
Yeah, that's-
yeah. And then
yeah.
Oh, and then I have a '05 F350 crew cab monster that pulls a trailer we have.
Sure.
That falls into kind of the RV class. It's there to pull the trailer.
There we
So-
go.
so I don't
Yeah,
have-
as long as you classify your
Yeah.
problems and you
Doesn't count
label
against
them,
the
Yeah.
you
And then I have a few motorcycles. Just
Got
let's
it.
see, the '78 Suzuki TS 125.
That's a little blue thing, right?
Yeah, I love that. That 2-stroke, man, that makes you smile.
Yeah.
And it's actually surprisingly quick little bike. And
Yeah, 2-stroke.
yeah, and then I have a '86 CB 700 SC Nighthawk, the red, white, and blue one. Really
Yeah,
cool.
sweet. Those are cool.
Yeah, that wants to go to Radwood when it's ready. Actually,
Yeah.
we're getting the carbs cleaned out right now.
Sweet. Okay. there
And
you
then
go.
I have a little. Actually, I guess I have 2 dirt bikes, but anyway,
The list continues.
one lives at a friend's house, so that doesn't really count either. So what does that
Yeah.
get us to?
I stopped counting when we
Ran out of fingers.
started doing division on like this one is a
Yeah.
car, but it's not a car, and this one
I
half
don't
counts,
really
and this one
like it,
3/4
so that
counts.
doesn't count. And
Yeah.
that's part of the RV.
Yeah, the math got
grouping,
involved.
yeah.
I was never good at math.
So we'll call it 5 or 6.
Very cool.
Yeah.
How many of those were through the yard purchases?
2. The K1500.
Sure.
And the Mercedes actually came through the
Right.
yard. So
There you go.
yeah, and both of them were pretty raggedy when I got them, which is how I like to get them.
Yeah,
And-
exactly.
And
Yep.
it can't be going to the pick and pull and scrounging around for bits and pieces.
Yeah.
Although the E55, you don't find too many of
Not
those
too
sitting
much.
in the
Yeah.
junkyard.
I need a blower. Yeah.
But that's been fun having the Prius. They're in there. I just got a cup holder there on Sunday for it. And, just
stuff's
those little
fun.
bits,
I love
man.
looking for
Gives
that
me,
little stuff.
tickles me. It's like
Like an air vent or something. that
yeah,
you're
yeah,
missing, yeah.
something that you'd
It's
have to
in the
order
right
from
color.
Toyota.
Yeah, when it's in the right color, especially.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Anyway, very cool.
Chadwick, you got any other questions for my guy here?
I mean, that is pretty awesome. I do like the personal stories. Have you had the opposite of that? A car that comes in that's a total mystery and becomes a game of Clue to figure out what's going on with this car. Why is it here? And I don't understand its background.
Yeah, I some of these, like, we get estate cars, and like I'll have somebody there, like, it's the person who had it. There's no family left, so we'll get like a call from a probate person or whatever, and some of it, like, I've had this car. This happened a couple of times where we pick it up from like a retirement home or whatever, and it turns out, like, I guess these people in these 2 cases that I'm thinking of, they get tired of sitting in that place, so they would go sit in their car as their own little personal capsule, and they have books and stuff in it, and then you start looking, and there's like letters from when they were younger and stuff, and so it's like, but there's nobody to to call or give it to, because I called and they go, there was then no errors.
No next of kin.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
it's just like, well, what do I do with all this stuff?
Yeah,
and
you
it's
feel
like,
bad throwing in the trash.
that's
like, nope,
weird.
here's your life.
Some of them are like
Paper cutter.
pictures, and so it's like you never get to know. You kind of get to know who that person is through that stuff, but by the same token, well, what do we do? Chuck it in the trash, and whatever's we can give to the like some of my charities that have thrift stores will give away. But so I don't know if that's the right answer to your question, but. It might dovetail into this answer, but I've had cars. I remember the one car, it was a 62 Nova. Somebody had donated, real cool car. And at the time, I think it was right when I first started doing it, they had this car since new, 30 years. And back then I had my own trailer. I was doing all my own picking up, and got to like meet the donors, which I really,
That's fun.
yeah,
That's cool.
that's what if I ever like retire, I'd love to like be the guy to go get the cars again, and just interface with these people. And they're like, okay, here's the car, here's the keys, thanks, bye. And it's like, there's no tears. You guys aren't like taking last pictures with it. And then I'll find somebody, they've had especially younger people, they love their cars, and it's like, they'll have some old turd Corolla that they've had for 3 years. It's like, I went on my prom in that car. And it's like,
Her name's Betsy,
Yeah.
and
yeah. And she got
lost my
this little
virginity in the
scratch
back of
here.
this car.
Yeah, it'll
And,
stall if you don't do this little special trick.
yeah, and her name is LC.
Yeah.
So it's weird how people can like just be that wired like that, like the Land Cruiser and other people. It's junk of metal, especially a cool old car like that Nova. It's like, you must be in love with this car. It's like, no, we have it and now we're done with it. Bye bye.
Yeah, that's like, I'll do that with like a toaster.
Just
It'll be like,
cold.
we've had this toaster for like 12
Me
years.
too,
It just
yeah.
stopped working. We're not gonna we'll just throw it away. We need to get a new one. It's like, no, we can save it. Like,
It's a classic.
We had that avocado toast one morning.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Let me like try and clean it out. Maybe there's a bad ground. You're like trying to, we're a toaster, let alone like a car.
Right.
And yeah, you're like picking kids up from newborn at the hospital inn or whatever, and it's just like, the stories are cool.
But you see stuff, like you'll see cars that, for whatever reason, you end up lifting, looking under the seat. You can tell the thing's been in a flood or something. There's all this silt and shit, and it's like, and then that goes to like stuff I've found in cars. And I was trying to think like, what?
Oh boy, that's gonna be a great section.
Yeah,
I love this.
I don't have anything. I've got some nasty things. Like,
That's what
not
we usually
super
deal
nasty,
with here.
but-
Yeah.
Nasty.
So I got two good. So this one.
Nate.
So usually is what I'll do,
Cocktail fruit.
especially if a car is going to be going out, or I'll either do it when it comes in or when it's going back out. I'll look under the seats and look for fast track or garage door openers or whatever.
Yeah.
So I poke my head under the seat of this car. I think it was a Tempo, and it was a well-used Tempo. And I look under there, and apparently this person had this habit of peeling their fingernails.
That's just
Oh, good.
And
yeah,
apparently
I've
they
seen
started
that
when they bought that car new and never
In
washed
1988.
it.
Yeah.
And so there's this little mountain of fingernail.
Oh, boy.
It's like, oh my god! It's like I was gonna box it up and send it to my brother because we do shit like
Literally
that.
biohazard him.
It's like the new glitter bomb is a fingernail bomb.
Exactly. Mystery person fingernail bomb.
And it is.
Nice.
I think there's another. It was a Toyota product, and down in the crevice between the seat and the console. Mm-hmm. I usually look down there.
Like a revolver.
Danger zone.
A lot of times you'll see change or even a dollar or whatever. Literally, that crevasse was filled to level with the seat with money, coins, just change. I think whenever they got that car, when they went through fast food or whatever, they would just drop it down there. It literally filled that up. It was the whole floor of the back seat was about 4 inches deep. It had crept into the rear passenger air duct and started going forward. It took me like 2 hours with a vacuum to get it all out of there. It was like, I don't know, like $160 worth.
That's wild.
With
Yeah.
straight up change.
Don't adjust the seat. You're gonna get a
Yeah.
coin in the rail.
It was just like weird,
That'd have been gross to bizarre.
Weird good, but I
Yeah.
liked it better than the fingernails.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Cross
Pays-
your
pays
fingernails.
better.
No whammy. No whammy.
Ever get any weapons?
No, every video, you get any 9mm or this? I go, no, I found some ammo once, but I would be surprised, and I would think. Well, we did actually have a call though. So we had sold a car locally, and the guy who bought it was some dude who'd been in and out of jail, and he got stopped.
Okay.
And they got into the trunk, and he was a convicted guy and whatever, and there was a bunch of guns in there, and he claimed that he never opened the trunk when he bought it from us. So I get a call from the detective saying, "Did you guys inspect the trunk of that car?" I'm like, "No."
Probably, but
Yeah,
I can't say for sure.
Yeah, and I helped him as much as I could, and I did a little looking on where it came from, and I think it had belonged to some older lady or something. And I go, I highly doubt that she left some automatic weapons in the trunk.
It's always the one you least expect.
But it's possible. Yeah, gangster granny or whatever.
Going full spray.
Yeah.
You didn't like my red velvet cake?
But that was actually when criminals got in trouble. But never mind. We're going down another path
rabbit
there.
hole.
Yeah.
I mean, that's better than a body in the trunk. If you had to pick one of the two, right, to get that call. Did you guys find the body or no?
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely, when I was doing the insurance stuff, like we'd get either, sometimes I would help out at Copart and just look at like what they called OTLs, obvious total losses. So like a car would be like, it wouldn't even make it to a body shop. It'd get picked up from like the scene or like someone's house and go straight to Copart. And we look at them there as a total loss. And so it would go from like the scene of an accident, like a significant accident, and then to like a tow yard and then straight to Copart. So, Bobby Sue or Billy Joe or whatever would never have an opportunity to clear their car out. Mm-hmm. It would just go to the total loss yard. And you'd find some crazy, not like, I found large knives and things like that, but never like pistols. Yeah. Although there were some other people I worked at, they would we literally had protocol. Like if you found a firearm, like you stop, you don't touch the car anymore. You have to call the guy like, hey, you got to come get your Derringer or whatever. And then, but I remember there was one. It was like an F-250 that had like gone off the road and rolled over a bunch of times. And there was a trash bag. Let's just say this took place in Mendocino County. So there was a trash bag
of weed.
Yeah, I was gonna say
various cuttings and trimmings and such. A massive bong, and then the interior, because this thing rolled over a few times. The interior was littered with probably like 400 like Whippet. CO2, not CO2.
Cartridges, yeah.
Nitrous oxide.
Is this like the early mid 2000s?
No, this would have been
Trying to
probably.
place it.
Why did you roll a truck?
I mean,
2000s?
I'm just saying. I want to know how much of that stuff you saved for me, man.
Exactly. Yeah, we're gonna have the after party later. But no, it was and it's like, gee, I wonder why this truck rolled over. Because they were like, there was like a 4-foot bong like shattered in the passenger seat, and it's just like, golly, just like the stuff that people just like do or have in their cars. It's like, my daily driver is actually kind of a mess. It's so borderline embarrassing. But I have like an old stereo I found for like a 90s Honda Civic and like random stuff like that in there. I unfortunately I don't have like pounds of opium or anything like that.
Well,
but
there's always time to fix
I suppose that's the thing though. If you donate your car, you probably have at least a little bit of an opportunity to clean stuff out, unless you die.
I would think so, but it's weird. I still find weird stuff, but my car's like that too. And the thing is, a lot of times we actually have to drive cars to set monitors. I assume people know that the computer needs to store data, so we can get them to smog because the batteries might have been dead. And so I'll drive a car around for a few days, and that's actually how I prevent from being a hoarder. I forget to take my stuff out of the cars and they get sold. So
there you go.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like sunglasses, they're free range.
Your large
sunglasses.
bongs and whippets and
yeah.
opium.
And so it's like, where's that? Where's this part, or where's my sunglasses, or my So stuff just comes and goes into my life. And
yeah, but then you'll get another car in
it
a week later. Like, hey, some Ray-Bans.
Yeah.
They're actually pretty good shape.
Yeah. We actually do a pretty good job of return. I remember this one. I found a $20 bill under the seat, and I had the time, and I popped it in an envelope and sent it back to the guy. That we got like so much good like feelings from that guy over sending that $20 bill back. Sure. It was like he just thought we were saints, which I like to think we are, but
Sure.
But,
yeah.
So we, that's like I said, we'll look for fast tracks and whatnot.
Sure.
But
garage door openers and whippets, and
car key, or house keys, and find a lot of
marital aids,
prophylactics in the cars.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Sometimes, hopefully unused. You just don't. Back to the old man living in his car by himself or whatever.
It's like a jump box for your personal business.
Exactly. Yeah. Jump your own
One
situation.
for the car, one for you.
Exactly. Yeah, buddy. Well, I suppose before we move on, do you have any last questions?
I mean, that was awesome. Again, thanks for stopping by and
Yeah, no,
sharing the stories.
yeah,
It's been
and-
fun. I can talk about cars all day long.
We'll have to have you on. We'll have to have you on again soon. But I know
Is it
it's
time?
interesting because the whole car donation thing, like people don't. Even before I knew you, I kind of knew nothing about the car donation stuff, and I was like sort of in the industry. I was at Copart, where you would sell cars. I was doing insurance stuff and managing, cradle to grave, like what happens to cars and where they go, and salvage and things like that, and working on cars and trying to find new angles to get deals on cars because I'm an idiot, and like I didn't know really anything about it, and so it's one of those things like people. They'll hear the radio ad for the Cars for Kids clan, or whatever, and the jingle and people just like they don't know like where things are going to go or what happens. It's just and what that happens. It's just like, oh, I'm going to give a car and it's going to go to a charity and they're going to do whatever they do with
Make
it.
it go away.
Yeah, exactly. And then I get a tax write off, and it's interesting to kind of see all that and get your perspective on things, especially someone who's been doing it as long as you have, because
Yeah.
you've probably seen the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Well, I think that a lot of it is that, most of the people who do what we do, everything just gets blown out to a wholesale auction. So the fact that we're actually, sifting through and finding the diamonds and putting some time and effort into them to get more money for them, that's where we're a little bit unique. And that's what I think when you talked about finding us, that's, there's not a lot of us that do that. So, but
Right.
as far as car donations in general, yeah, there's some, pretty big outfits moving a lot of cars, but like I said, they're going to dealer only or dismantler auctions. So
Yeah,
for us to do what we do is pretty uncommon.
For sure, and I have to imagine, and I know we had talked about it. I had mentioned it briefly in the past. I think when I was talking about when I was working for an insurance company, and it's just like you're working with cars all day long, and like I was the only car person amongst an enormous cohort of coworkers, and I was the only person, and we were all working with cars day in day out, and I was the only person that gave a damn about cars.
Yeah,
Sure.
And so I have to imagine that's very much the status quo for a lot of these other players in your space, especially the bigger ones, the ones that have the radio jingles and the ones that are like, across the nation and
Yeah.
these big organizations where
Right.
it's a machine
Yeah.
and there's no one there that actually cares about machines, like the
Right.
cars themselves.
Right, they
And
could be
it's-
anything. They're widgets to these
Exactly.
guys, and they're. I see some of these car shows. There's that dude in Florida who does classic cars. The dude knows nothing about cars. I remember somebody brought in. It was a rear-engine car, and he didn't know that. It's like they're just a way for him to make money.
Yeah.
He doesn't.
Yeah.
He doesn't care about.
Porsches
it.
have
And
an
it's
engine
like,
in the rear, I'm confused.
I wish
Yeah,
I
it's
could
like
be a
Porsche
little
only.
more like that. My driveway would be a little less full if I
Sure.
was,
Sure.
Yeah,
as would either
the
of your
driveway
guys,
would lighter
right?
and the pockets would be a little heavier.
Yeah.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah.
Well, that's super cool. And no, I appreciate you coming on and sharing and talking cars. Again, we'll have to have you on again someday.
Yeah, there will
Talk
be
cars.
probably some new cool toys that get dropped off that we could talk about because
Yes.
every few weeks something neat comes along. That's
Absolutely.
yeah.
No, it's cool. And then I know I got to give you the tour of this place, and I just realizing now I forgot to mention where we're recording today, which I always try to do because the good people here at Car Park
Yep.
in Pleasanton are always good enough to put up with our nonsense
Sure.
and let us record here and be miscreants.
Give us a beautiful backdrop if you guys are watching
Yeah.
the video.
Yes.
Yeah.
So check it out. The Senna's
Great toys.
The Senna's still there. We haven't managed to take it out and ruin it yet.
Not yet.
Which knock on wood. So that's very cool. And then there's a game that we like to play
Oh,
here. And I think
yeah.
you're gonna help me out. I think we're gonna do like we did when David was on, right?
Yeah, you guys can team
we'll be
up.
we'll be a team. And so the way this works for you, Richard, and those who care to play along at home, this is what we. Oh, I just broke our mic stand. This is what we call our. We're going to call it our print ad quiz game, where Chadwick here is going to read some print ad copy from a magazine from the 80s, 90s, or the early to mid 2000s, and he's just gonna read the typed copy from the ad.
Okay.
And we will have three opportunities to guess what this vehicle is. He will read the technical specifications, whatever it's going to wax poetic about. He's going to redact out pertinent information.
Right.
Make,
Motor
model.
size.
If it has VTEC, he'll probably blank that out. If we get a guess wrong, we have an opportunity to ask for a hint.
That's right.
Towards that end, and we have 3 guesses to make this happen.
All right, who goes
I'm
first?
ready. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, so
All right,
he's gonna
guys.
ask. He's gonna ask, and it's on us. We can consult. We can discuss
Okay.
what we think the correct answer is. Here.
Oh, good. Okay, we're a team. Perfect.
Yeah,
If
we
you guys
are
can
a team.
figure it out.
All right.
Here's the ad, guys. I'll get through it. So, with 130 horses under its sculpted hood, that's questionable. The new blank is a blank of a different color. We've just let loose a barn burner that overpowers the competition. I'm going to leave the competition out for now. 'Cause I think
Okay.
it's going to narrow it down a little bit.
Okay. So it lists the competition.
Yep. Blank's innovative 2.2 liter, 16 valve
I know
engine.
what it is already.
You already know?
Yeah.
Oh boy!
Oh,
But don't go.
yeah,
Let me get
well-
through the ad.
All right.
Its design is shared by only 3 of the world's great cars. I'm going to leave those out for now as well.
Interesting.
The blank has harnessed those wild horses to put you in complete control. Our design team created one of the most civilized, high stability suspension systems ever engineered. That's a bold claim. To help you tame the most uncivilized roads. Plus, oversized, computerized disc brakes on all 4 corners.
Oversized
Now I'm
and
rethinking it.
computerized.
That's interesting stuff.
These are never that easy, my friend.
For smooth straight line stops in less distance than other cars in its class. And the option of blanks. Full-time 4-wheel drive. It's a big one. You'll enjoy an extra measure of traction and confidence, whatever the weather. Inside, the graceful new blank offers the kind of space, luxury, and ergonomically superb comfort you used to expect only from costly European sports touring cars. There's a big hint there too. But the best news of all is that with all that's new, the blank is still a blank. Still built like a blank. Still priced like a blank.
A lot of blank.
That's the blank of blank.
oh blank.
Guys, what blank are we talking about today?
Oh my God.
Okay.
I thought I had it. You want me to tell you what I thought it is? I know
Yeah,
it-
yeah.
let's hear the debate. This is the best part.
Let's walk through this.
Except, so I thought it was a SVO Mustang. It has a 2.2. It had the hood bulge.
I believe those were a 2.3.
Very
okay.
close.
The
though.
Lima.
Okay, and then but then
And
it also
turbo, they
said
would have been
all-
like-
and I don't think they ever did an all-wheel drive either.
did
but
not. Well,
but
that
there's
would've
all
been
these
sweet.
horse references and barn references.
Yes,
so,
Yes.
yeah.
correct. That's a trick. So could it be a Pinto? No. Horse references. Lots of horse references. 2.2 16 valve. So that could be the Toyota 5S FE, which was in the Camry. The vaunted 4-cylinder that was in everything. So the Camry,
But no hood bulge.
no hood bulge, no available 4-wheel drive. Not in that generation. The earlier generation you could in the all-track. But that
But
was
maybe
a 2
those
liter.
didn't they do a hot rod Toyota of that era? I forget what it, but it had a little the FXE or something like that.
Well, there was
They-
the Corolla FX16.
Did they do it?
That was a
all
1.6.
Oh,
And
okay.
it was a hatchback. It was this, literally on my laptop. And it had a little power bulge. See? It's right there.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
those were great.
Those were great.
XR4 Ti hood bulge.
XR4 Ti is the same 2.3.
Yeah, yeah.
So you're going the right way. You're going in the right direction. I think if it was turbocharged, they would have been like screaming about it.
It's talking about barns and horses, though, so it's got to be Pinto, Mustang.
You
what
would
else?
think it could be a paper
Just an
tiger.
ad thing. Maybe
Yeah.
it coincides with the picture that whatever.
Or the
picture is.
competition, right? They might be trying. They might be trying to try and take a bite out of the Mustang. You know what? Wow, I was going to say maybe a
2.2
Ford
is a
Probe.
You said it's 2.2, right?
2.2.
So
Yes.
that's
2.2,
a
16
Toyota.
valve. Available. It said available full-time 4-wheel drive.
That's right.
So not all-wheel drive, but I think that's a bit of marketing misspeak, because if it's full-time with a 2.2 and they're calling it like a grand touring car, not a truck. So I'm thinking
That's
it's
what
really
got me, 'cause
all-wheel
it was
drive.
talking about off-road, but then it's a sport touring car. So what would be? I mean, it
to
almost
be fair,
feels,
everything
you know what it
we've read-
feels like it's Subaru-y. Like
Yeah,
It could be.
But everything we've read at this time is like, if it has all-wheel drive, it has off-road potential.
Then we're
This is
talking.
being- this is being-
Subi did a 2.2. Subi had
They
the hood
did.
bulge. I think
They
we're getting
did.
somewhere, right?
It could be an Impreza, and the early Imprezas that had the 2.2 initially were all-wheel drive was optional. It was not standard. The early like the 80s, 90s, up until I want to say almost like 95 is when all-wheel drive became standard. The beauty of all-wheel drive. So that would bring us to, could it be a Legacy? Could it be, I don't think it's
Forester,
earlier than
Impreza,
that. I don't think it's the
Outback,
earlier,
right?
yeah, it would be like a Loyal or something. It'd be the EJ based that'd be the EJ22.
It's got some in-depth knowledge here.
That's what I forget like the birthdays of the ones I love and such. I replace it with EJ22.
There you go. Yeah,
Noble
yeah.
sacrifice.
It's one. That's my cross to bear. So what do we think?
Impreza had
Impreza?
yeah, I think the Impreza, it had the 2.2 as opposed to the 2.5, which
It was
I think
available
came.
in coupe. It
yeah.
was available. It was available in a sedan. It was available in a wagon. Let's go. I suppose.
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's do. I like the wagon. I think this is let's call it a 1995 Subaru Impreza. Final answer, Bob.
Guys, you are so dang close with that guess. I think I'll let you guys, if you want to ask for a hint to dial you in a little more, because you're right there. Or I can give you that competition, which might tell you what class.
Yeah,
of
let's hear
vehicle
the rest.
this is.
Let's hear that part of the
Okay.
ad. Let's hear the competition.
So more than anything, it has to do with the size of the competition. So what
Okay.
class these vehicles would be
Okay,
classified
so this is
as.
like a mid-size, probably.
So the new Legacy is a blank. I know, right?
Well, I mean that's where we were going.
You guys
anyways,
are going to
but
get
continue.
It. Okay, sorry.
Because that's the next.
The
guess.
legacy of this vehicle just let loose a barn burner that overpowers the competition Honda Accord, Toyota Camry, Mazda 626.
Yeah.
So we are talking larger, because the Impreza was still a compact.
Correct.
Right.
And so that would be the legacy. And those were only Japanese competition, and it's already ruled out
European.
Europe, and I don't think there was anything with a 2.2 with available four-wheel drive coming out of North America at
Nope.
the time. So it literally
guys
has to be the
50-50
name
at
that
the
you
beginning.
just said, which
Yeah.
is Legacy.
You guys had it.
We were there, but yeah, that
Happens
would
to
be
the best of us.
And what year?
Oh,
What
boy,
are we
let's
gonna
go.
guess,
Let's go
or-
90. Let's keep it. I like 95. Let's stick in 1995.
So it's going to be earlier. It's going to be
Oh, okay.
the 8990. It doesn't have the year, but I owned one of these.
Yes.
So remember
the more
the
wedgy.
Yep, the Legacy came
There
out
was
before
one of those
the
at
Impreza.
your
yeah.
yard not that long ago.
Yeah.
That purpley one.
Yeah.
So they came out before the Impreza. The Impreza was like the
Correct.
94, I think, or 93.
I think 93.
Yeah,
I
the
think.
Legacy came before it. Same power plant, though. You're right, with the 2.2, single overhead cam, 16 valve,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
You should have
So-
hit us with the SVX. We would have never got
Oh
that.
yeah, that's a, I don't
What a
know.
wonderful
It depends.
car.
If it
Yeah.
dropped like flat 6
Yeah, or the
and
horsepower.
four-wheel drive, like there's
235.
only I don't know. Maybe you would have just said 6-cylinder. I don't
Yeah,
know.
you guys
Another day.
had it, so here's the barn.
It's
Oh,
leaping
There
out of
is
the barn.
literally a barn.
Yeah.
Look
Sweet.
at that.
That's why I
That's
left the
pretty cool.
competition off, because
Those are cool. Like those cars, I like them. The build qualities are pretty good. They drive pretty well.
Yeah.
They, even in their most aggressive form, are pretty staid looking.
They had
like
a
they're
turbo.
not. I've
They had a
never,
turbo, a
They
super
did,
rare-
with the hood scoop.
Yeah, a very mild hood scoop, and you can get a wagon turbo manual, which is like
Good.
super rare in the States.
And I think those motors were pretty desirable, the turbos, because they were like a closed deck, like
Closed deck
stronger
design,
like they were, you
2.2.
could build them up stronger.
Still a 2.2, but totally different animal.
There we go. Hey,
Cool.
we
Good job,
did it.
guys.
Yeah.
We
There
guys
you
had
go.
it.
Yeah.
There we go.
I went down the SVO road. for
They'll
a
get you.
second, but
They'll
yeah.
get you, man.
Yeah.
What was the one I did? It was like the thunder strike and the birds and everything. You're like, this has to be a thunderbird,
Right.
And it wasn't. It was a firebird.
You caught it. You said lightning.
It was like
birds of
lightning
or
strikes,
something.
yeah. Like when when the sky cracked and lightning struck and the birds came down. It's like, dude, this has to be a thunderbird.
And you had a couple.
trick you.
Also, you had a couple that were like jet references, and I was like, it has to be Saab. It read like an old Saab ad.
Yeah,
but it
yeah.
wasn't a Saab.
It was not a sob. It was a sob story.
Yeah.
It was a fun game.
It was.
Good job, guys.
And that leaves us. Have you ever done PCP, Richard? Have you
Especially after finding it in a donated
I'm
car.
hoping that's not the horse tranquilizer we're talking about.
No, that's not. Have you ever fallen into a K-hole? No, no, we're not. We're not talking about ketamine. PCP. We do it here on the podcast. PCP is an acronym. What it actually stands for in drug abuse terms, I don't know. In our lexicon, it simply means project car progress. We're always swimming in project cars here, probably much to the chagrin of our loved ones. However, we like to give brief updates here to kind of round out the show, let people know where we're at. What kind of project cars do you have going on? I know you mentioned the
Elco's pretty close.
Yeah.
I just Chris and I got that Messerschmitt. Just
okay, tell me about that,
Yeah.
because I know he had mentioned to me, and Chris is a gentleman that Rich and I both know, and he mostly works on motorcycles. He also works on cars, and 50s Messerschmitt is kind of like the meeting point of both. I
Yeah,
feel like.
it's a 200cc two-stroke motor, so that's in his wheelhouse. And actually, speaking of, I can't remember if we were on there. We were talking about Grass Valley area. He went to Grass Valley and pulled that car out.
No
And,
kidding.
Yeah, and it's the bubble top. And actually, I didn't know this. It's got the one seat in front, and then it's got two little side by sides, so you can fit like an adult and two kids. So that thing will
It's
take
basically
three
a
people.
McLaren F1.
Yeah.
It is.
Wow.
Yeah, the same layout. That's probably where they got it, actually.
Yeah, exactly. They
But this
totally
thing is ragged. Actually, the really cool thing, Chris just told me about this that I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
For reverse, you turn the key backwards, the motor runs backwards. So you have you have multiple
Like the
gears
the
in
starter
reverse.
motor
yeah.
runs
And then
backwards.
the motor starts backwards. No,
Yeah.
actually it's a two-stroke, so the motor
Oh, it's a
runs in
two-stroke.
reverse. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. So you can go into
Okay.
like fourth gear.
Holy smokes.
That's super awesome.
Yeah.
Well, are those like a tricycle setup where you have two in the
Yes,
front
they're-
and one in the back, or
Yep.
like two really tight in the
Yeah,
back? or-
it's if you watch, I think it was Cars, and it's the little. I think he's a little Italian guy in Cars, but they got the.
Messerschmitt can't be Italian. He's got to be
I know,
German.
so maybe
Well,
there's
they
an
were
Italian
allies
version.
in World War II.
That's true. Yeah, some Axis.
But
Axis
he's
of
one of
evil
the
type
cute little guys.
situation.
He owns the shop in Cars on
Okay.
Route
I thought
66
those were
or
like
wherever
Fiat
they live.
500 or something. It could be. I don't know.
Those,
I'm not
some of
way
those
up on
micro cars are resemble
Interchangeable, yeah.
the little
It's like
cute
American
little.
K car,
They
huh?
have like little cartoonish faces with their little headlights, and but it needs a lot of love. But he's excited about it, and we
So
gotta.
you're like 600 double R swap or Hayabusa
No,
swap?
he
or-
went. We're gonna go
Murder
stock,
machine?
and so it needs paint and,
Okay.
and a little bit of smoothing out. But the bubble's missing, and I was like, "What about that bubble?" He said, "Oh no, they repop them, $1,500 for a new bubble."
Were those originally like glass, or were they like a plastic?
I think it's
originally?
probably some sort of
heavy.
plastic. And it was funny because I jumped in and said, "When that bubble's going to be done, I'm not going to be able to sit in that thing, or I'll have to sit in the back seat."
Right.
Because I'm just too tall for it. But it's really cool.
Those
It's
are
got
cool.
so Messerschmitt used to make planes, and then after
Correct.
the war,
Yep.
whoever was calling the shots said
Unfortunately,
you can't make planes
effective
anymore.
planes, yeah.
And so it's got this really cool like airplane steering wheel, you know.
Okay.
That's cool.
So it'll be fun. I mean,
So it's like this post-Nazi weapon building effort by Messerschmitt.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, fine, we'll go from making like literally instruments of war to the most innocent looking
yeah, cute
little bubble.
Yeah,
Aw, like you like want to walk up and pet it.
yeah.
That's super cool. So what's the plan? Are you gonna have it and drive it around, or
I
gonna
think that's the
sell it,
initial
or-
plan. He actually brought his kid over to see it this weekend. So
Okay.
I think it, really kind of the plan would be to get it up and running and then just see how much emotion comes out. You
Sure.
know? And then it's like, and then ultimately, usually everything's for sale at some price, so it might
right?
might come
Well, those
to
have
somebody.
those have some value, right? Like
Yeah,
30-ish, 40-ish.
Yeah,
Like, I have no
even
idea.
the real nice ones, like done show cars, are at like 50 now.
Wow. Okay.
So, but I was surprised. I didn't know, and I guess the production numbers were high enough that you can get everything repop for those now. Which I
That's pretty
kind of
awesome.
thought they were really, low production number.
That's what
But
it seems like. I imagine that's something that you look at that car and then you look at what year is it? Late 50s or something?
50, early 50s. I think I
Early
want to say
50s.
52 or something. I'm
Okay.
playing loose with that number.
So let's
though.
say it's a 52. I'm looking at an American car in 1952,
Mm-hmm.
and just its overall girth and heft,
Mm-hmm.
and let alone later on, because I think they made those cars until like the 60s. But like, I can't imagine they sold hardly any of those stateside. I imagine they probably
Correct.
sold a lot of them, but just
Well, see, that's
in
the thing.
Europe.
Maybe there was bunches of them running around there.
Yeah,
So
that would make a lot of
And then
sense.
it's
Or like
all
a
up with-
Fiat 500, or like a Fiat Multipla, you see one of those. It's like half the size of this table, and you fit
Right.
like 9 people in it or something stupid.
yeah.
So yeah, I guess that makes sense that you can still get parts and whatnot.
Yeah, and if somebody kept the dies for the metal work, and then
Cool.
all with 3D printing and all that sort of
Exactly.
technology, it's like a bubble top. They scan one and then plug it into your computer, and
Bitchin'.
yeah,
that's
out
cool.
it comes. So that's the state of that one. But So I'll have to give you an update because that's early on in the.
That's the most fun part of the project, right?
Yes.
This is a moment you bring it home and you
the potential.
blow the dust off it, and you look in little cubby holes.
And then
you
doing all
find
the
little things.
online shopping, and then joining the little clubs, and then all the people who steer you to the right people. It's like
Yeah.
it's a mystery novel, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Choose your own adventure. Yeah, that's
Financial ruin.
disaster.
You lose. Back to the beginning.
Yeah.
Exactly. Cut your losses.
Yeah.
No, I will not. Well, that's cool. So that's fun because then you're going to have like an El Camino, a convertible Camaro, an E55, and a Messerschmitt, and then some like GMT 400 trucks and square bodies and stuff. It's just like this, quite the web you weave. You know?
Yes, yes.
It's quite
And
very.
I have an electric scooter I do to offset when I drive the gas hogs.
There
so
you
I'm
go.
environmentally conscious. Right?
Chadwick, would you like to do now? PCP?
I mean, I thank you for the opportunity.
Choose your method. A pipe, or I don't even know how one actually does real PCP. Like I
been a
don't.
while.
It's been hours since I've attempted
literal hours.
to do PCP. What are you working with?
So we're still doing the American variant. So I've got my buddy's Mustang GT Fox Body, 1989.
yes,
Nice.
the ever present.
Oh God. Following like
5.0.
3 mechanics at least that didn't know what they were doing to the car, which is always the hardest thing. It is modified, unknown cam, has like a Cobra intake manifold. You guys know the story of this thing slapped together. He's had it for so long, but it's just fallen into bad repair hands. I'm doing ignition timing, which is not really bad to do unless you're trying to follow someone that messed everything up, like just put a new distributor in,
Right.
changed out the ECU. Who knows what's going on? So ignition timing is pretty fun. You pull the spout, which is the spark out plug, and you go ahead and set it. You got to get your timing light out. Most people don't even know how to run a timing light anymore, so that's what I've been doing. I got it set perfectly. I then went back and adjusted the base idle setting, which was completely off at that point. So it's like a one of those things where you fix something, you find out something else wasn't done right.
Right.
So base idle setting was pretty easy. It has a cam clearly because cammed vehicles love to idle a little higher to make it clean.
Right.
If you try to keep like a 500 base idle with like a cam, any kind of cam, it's gonna just it's gonna run out. So base idle setting, and then I put in a new throttle position sensor, which the old one, this guy loved RTV. So I have no idea why this thing was RTV'd into the throttle body.
That makes no sense.
It makes no sense at all because you need it to be adjustable, right? You loosen the screws, you can twist
does it even like seal unmetered air or anything?
I have no, I don't think so.
So it's
Well, I guess it does because it kind of sits on, it depends. No, there's a rubber gasket in there.
So-
Maybe he would have done it to compensate for a bad rubber gasket. It's a new throttle body, though. It's a bigger throttle body.
Yeah.
So I don't know why he did that. Like he wanted to get it so it was set perfect or whatever because that's sort of those resistance
and you
based
got to dial
sensors.
it.
So you have to, measure voltage, adjust it very smallly. Just totally RTV down in place.
Weird.
So replace that. Now the car, so the current state of the Mustang, unfortunately, is it's idling perfect. It's not. It sounded super low, like I had a crazy cam in it, but it really doesn't. It was just a bad idle. So my buddy was shocked to hear that it actually idles like a car.
Idling
He's like,
is
"What
good.
happened to my Mustang?" And I'm like, yeah, "This is how it should sound."
Right.
Still runs incredibly rich though. Like it will fill the garage. It's way better. It's like a tenth of the smoke show. Remember that video I showed you?
Yeah.
So I had I had posted on Instagram. I filled my garage up just 2 minutes of idling with like black smoke.
Yeah.
Like this thing was horrible. It fouled plugs in like 5 minutes.
Sure.
Like that's how bad this thing was running. So it's still running a little rich. I think it needs fine tuning. I think the aftermarket ECU isn't doing enough.
Okay.
I think there was a chipped one in there that allowed for
Right.
the cam, the intake manifold, and all those kind of aftermarket parts and throttle body. You can't just swap parts out like that and expect the car to run. So
Right.
it needs fine tuning. It's probably going to need to go to a tuning shop for that. But I've got it running, idles. It doesn't stop anymore. It doesn't cut out. It doesn't
Right.
smoke show the garage
Right.
immediately. So
So now it takes like an hour to file a plug. instead of
yeah,
5 minutes.
exactly. Yeah,
Wow.
you can get a lot of life out of these plugs now. But that's where we're at. I'm surprised I could get there, to tell you the truth. This car's been a basket case. So that's where we are. Just fine tuning remains.
There you go. We like that.
Yeah.
We like
Yeah.
that. That's good. I've done way less exciting stuff as of buying like ex-Nazi propaganda business and working on pure red-blooded American muscle cars. I did some basic maintenance on my Honda Civic Hybrid. So I've been driving. It has like the maintenance reminder, and I think the original maintenance interval on that was like 3,000 miles because that's about when it came on.
Okay.
But I'm running like nice, modern, full synthetic oil. I'm like, I can go a little bit further than that.
Yeah.
And I got to like the 5,000 mile mark with like the maintenance line. I was like, God, I'm just gonna do it. So I did an oil change,
Nice.
and really exciting stuff. But
How did it look coming out, man? Tell us the
it
details.
was fine. It was great. It was great. It was perfectly on level.
No
It's not
glitter.
using any.
Yeah.
No glitter. No nothing.
Yeah, how much glitter?
But it runs 0-20, so it's like water pissing out.
Yeah, a
It's
lot
just-
of hybrids.
it's so-
run-
it's so
run
thin.
oil like that. Yeah.
So I do all that, and so of course while I'm under there, so the oil filter and everything is right next to the oil pan on the underside too.
Yep.
So do all that, get it all in, and then I look over. I'm like, oh, that grease shouldn't be there. It's got a driver's side axle boot is torn, and it's slinging grease out. And I noticed, so right after I got it, where I purchased it shall remain nameless. It had some issues when I bought it, and I knew that getting into it.
Yeah.
And some of that was idle air control valve and some other things. And so I fixed what I needed to keep it driving. It still has some stuff I need to go through to get the check engine light to go away. Just evap stuff. It's got a stuck evap solenoid, so I got to play with that. But the tires were super old. Like, just like they Rubbermaid was like the consistency of them, and they were terrible. So I swapped them out, and they felt it. Like you go on freeway speed and you feel it shaking. So I put brand new tires on it, and it was better, but there was still a little shake out of it. I'm like, yeah, that's weird. I had an alignment done and everything. I'm like, I'll have to poke around it. Well, now I know what that is. It's that axle's been slinging. It hasn't been doing it for an incredibly long time.
Yeah.
But long enough, I'm like, okay, there's my because the vibration's only like 75, 80.
Sure.
And that car gets such better fuel economy if you drive like 55, 60.
100%.
Which sucks to do. Mm-hmm. But I go from like 38 miles a gallon to like 51 miles a gallon.
Wow.
Yep.
It's a monstrous difference if I drive it at like 16 set cruise control. So I haven't been noticing it, but then when I was driving it faster, I noticed it. Well, now I know. So I went on good old rockauto.com. How much do you think was the cheapest rebuilt axle, driver's side, front, axle hash shaft, the whole thing, bolted in? What do you think that cost for that car?
I bet it's
2004 Honda Civic Hybrid.
I bet it's surprising because I know that's different than the regular. None of the regular.
I
Civics
actually
run the
don't know
same.
if it is.
They used
In
to
a
be a
5-speed.
lot, and then they came down to like $40 for
Well, it
a
depends
high
how cheap-
production, like a Corolla or something.
Frank would never buy the cheapest part, though.
No, so
He'd buy close, but he wouldn't get the cheapest one.
Okay,
yeah.
this is the question though. What is the cheapest one?
For a rebuilt, too?
A rebuilt, yeah,
$40.
reman. You're going 40.
I'm gonna go 68, 72, somewhere in that range.
$28.
wow.
$28. Now I was like,
Maybe he did go cheapest,
on this one. I
yeah.
was like, on this car, I was like, I'm gonna just do it. I'm just gonna get it. And it was a Cardone, so it wasn't a complete no-name brand.
Right.
Cardone, but it was like private label,
Okay.
but it was a closeout. So I tried to order it. Not available in California because they don't have the little sticker on the box that says like, there's grease in this, and the grease will give you cancer.
Prop
Like,
65,
Prop,
right?
Prop
Yeah.
65.
Yeah.
So it's not certified Prop 65. So the next closest rebuilt one was like
Getting
54.
Getting closer to my price point.
But then for 50, it was like $58 was like the name brand Cardone reman one. So it was $4 extra. So I'm like, I'll just get that one, and so that's what I have. I got it in 2 days. Pretty close, and you were pretty close too. I tried to get the $28.
he tried.
The $28 axle. And
It's gonna say
alas,
you got a brother out of state, but then you ship it to him.
Yeah,
and then you have to
exactly.
pay shipping to him, that back to you.
I've never tried
cheap
that
out-
with catalytic converters.
Oh, no.
no. Cheap out, but at what cost?
Yeah.
So yes, I tried to go the ultimate cheap ass route, and it failed. So
Denied.
I got it. I'm gonna do it because I also bought front pads and rotors. I was like, when I went to the oil change, I was like, I'm gonna have the front end up. I might as well do the pads and rotors. And then I saw the axle. I was like, well, I'm not gonna do all that and then put an axle in it and immediately pull the rotor and everything.
Yeah,
off.
good point.
I'm like, that's silly. I was like, I'll just wait. So now I have the part. So that's it. Really boring.
How'd your end links
Stuff.
look?
Everything else looked actually really good.
Outer control arms?
It all looked good.
Everything?
Yeah. All that looked good. Yeah. All that looks good. The car's got now like 105 on the clock, so it's really.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
The mileage is really pretty good. It's just been a long time sitting.
yeah,
Didn't
that-
have a steering issue. So.
Yeah, the steering is terrible. I think we've talked about it here on the podcast.
Yeah.
There's some. I use the big scanner on it, like a nice big Autel like touchscreen B scanner, and it was basically saying there's a fault for like a speed sensor that ties into the steering. So long story short, the steering is brutally bad. And my understanding is like, it's funny, like you go online and have some people are just like, oh yeah, like you have to jump through like, it's like a 78 point step process to diagnose it. And then even then people are like, oh, like you just have to replace the rack and the ECU and all speed. and like a transmission output speed shaft sensor, and I'm just like, oh, I'm not doing all that.
Yeah, no.
And then other people are like, oh yeah, no, that's just
How they are.
That's typical operation. Live with it. But it's easily
There's
the
no
worst.
way.
It's
There's
the
no
worst
way.
steering. You can turn the steering wheel 10 degrees and let go, and it won't recenter. You'll just be at freeway speed. And
Yeah,
just
there's no
carry
way
on.
that's normal.
And so which driving around town you don't really notice it, but when you're just like on a dead straight freeway, you're just micro adjustments the whole time. You can't just like casually cruise. You're like constantly doing micro adjustments. Otherwise, otherwise you're
just
ping
holds-
ponging it the whole time.
it holds the
because
angle,
it doesn't want to. It doesn't want to self center.
It'd be good at anti-theft. If your car's ever stolen, just go about a mile down the road, you'll find it crashed into the
Yeah, exactly.
Like a
Well, it's already
90-degree
it's
angle.
already a manual, so that's already the
Start looking
anti-theft
to the
device.
either side of the
Yeah,
road.
right.
Yep.
There it is on that guy's front lawn.
Well, that's pretty much. I think that's pretty much it. I think we've
Cool.
successfully. If we do more PCP, people will find us on other people's front lawns. So I think we should probably
Again.
lay off of that. Again, big shout out, thank you to Car Park for hosting another Pointless Automotive podcast and this episode today. If people are here and listening in the San Francisco Bay Area and they have some beater or they have like an Ferrari F50 or whatever they want to donate, perhaps, their low mileage 959 or whatever, and they want to do it to donate it to a local charity. That's where you come in. Where would anyone do that? What's the best way to do that with car donation services
So
or a
I'll
charity?
give you a
they're
phone
choosing?
number or car donation services. Google it, and there'll be a bunch of the big guys who pay to come in ahead of us. But
Yes, sure.
When you see us on Pacheco Boulevard, and that's us, and you can.
It's just like cardonationservices.com.
cardonationservices.com. Yeah,
There you go.
and then the number's 925-229-5444.
There you go.
And we'd love to get whatever you got over there. If it's a beater or a beauty, whatever, we'll come and get it.
Yeah.
Beaters and beauties. It's
Yeah,
like-
there you go. Yeah,
that
it
could
sounds
be-
like a new podcast, huh?
Exactly, yeah, or like
Jeez.
a really poor taste, like adult gentlemen's club. So, thank you for coming on.
Thanks again.
Yeah.
Rich from Car Donation Services. You can. I'll let that one out into the ether.
Yeah, no.
If any listeners want to start out their own business of beaters and beauties, you may have that. You do not have to pay us royalties.
Definitely
for
already
the
a
podcast.
website, for sure.
Just give us a shout out. We are another Pointless Automotive podcast. If you want to see what we're up to, which is never posting on our Instagram, but you want to see it anyways, that's at APA Podcast on Instagram. Keep listening to us wherever you listen. Chad, where can you be found?
Yeah, you guys can find me at the Auto Obsessive Garage. Do some reviews, fix a lot of junk cars, put way too much effort into them.
And that's like on Instagram and YouTube.
Instagram too.
They can also find you at Beaters and Beauties, right?
Yeah, OnlyFans.
Perfect.
Beaters.
Exactly. And I, Frank, I am at at the Photographer's Garage on Instagram and YouTube, and that's pretty much it. So, thank you all for hanging out. It's been swell, and
Take care as always.
until next time, homies.
Later.
Bye.